is our tight package. All right, and then that'll lead to questions. Holler them out, man, because I know I'm up there just going a mile a minute. So just throw it out at me, and we'll kind of go from there. So if clearly, or maybe not clearly, if split defense sets the 3 and the 7 technique away from the stud, then tight sets the 3 and the 7 technique to the stud. So if in our tight defense, all right, this is more what you're familiar with if you talk about the Tampa Bay, the Tampa 2 scheme and things like that. All right, so I'll go quickly on everything and then field questions and go right to the film. All right, we base everything out of our cover 2 shell right there. All right, our cover 2 shell. So if we say tight defense, all right, tight defense, stud left, left. So we set the 3 and the 7 technique to the left. He's a B gap player. He's a 7 technique or C gap player. Our 1 and our 5 go to the right. All right? This is where we're a little different now. Our boundary corner goes to the field. Our boundary corner goes to the boundary, and our field corner goes to the field. In the middle of the field, our field corner goes to passing strength, and our boundary corner goes away from passing strength. Our strong safety sets everybody in the secondary. If the ball's on the hash, he'll declare it to the field, and our free safety will go opposite his declaration. Our star or our Sam will go with our strong safety, and he'll be a 50 technique. Our Mike's in the middle, and he'll be a 10 technique. And our Will goes away from the declaration, and he'll be a 40 technique. So we're more, rather than being in an under defense or a split defense, we're more in what you picture as a 4-3 now. Generally speaking, our tight defense, when we're playing tight 2, that's the Tampa 2, is when we play 2 deep coverage. That's no longer our 8-man front spacing. That's our 7-man front spacing. We'll utilize this defense more on pass downs. When we anticipate a pass, a 2nd and long, 3rd and long call, where we're playing now 2 deep, 5 under zone right there. And rather than outnumber you in the box, our linebackers will slide adjust to handle any 3rd wide receiver adjustments. Because we're in 7-man front football, what we'll utilize is line movements, to cancel gaps. All right, so we're in tight defense. A lot of times to better defend the run game is we'll utilize line movements. We'll utilize what we call a ram. A ram rocks the 5 technique from the C gap responsibility into the B gap right there. We'll use a pat, which will work the 3 technique from the B gap responsibility into the A gap responsibility. We'll pirate, which will rock the 3 technique and the 7 technique from C gap and B gap responsibility into A and B gap responsibility right there. We'll utilize several different line movements to cancel gaps and force the ball outside to our corners. If we didn't cancel gaps now, what we do to stop the run is on any flow week, our Will fits the fullback. He fits the fullback. So if it's dive flow, the Will spills the fullback. The Mike's B gap to flow inside out over the top. The star linebackers into the A gap right there. On any slant flow, the Will fits the fullback. Mike's into the B gap. Strong Sam's into the A gap. Any sweep flow, again, the Will fits the fullback. Mike's 1-step, 2-step slide, B gap to flow. Stars 1-step, 2-step slide, crossover run, A gap to flow. Any type of flow strong, the star is now the D gap player. He scrapes to skin, fits tight in the D gap. Mike's A gap to flow. Will's B gap to flow. Any sweep flow, we generally get off tackle or sweep flow here. The star is not a contained player. He spills the ball out to the corner. He spits it inside out, and the Mike's A gap to flow. Will's B gap to flow right there. And again, the majority of the time, we'll utilize line movements to cancel gaps and allow our players to flow inside out to the ball. A lot of times, again, we'll use line movements to let our Mike just read flow and stay inside out to the ball. If we play in the run game, our corners now are our primary force players. We'll make in tight 2 a cloud call to each side, meaning they're the force defenders and the safeties are the secondary force players. It's their responsibility to ensure the block or release of the number one receiver before pursuing in the alley. And their run fits are always between the outside linebacker to their side and the corner. If we play pass, in split one lock, that was our man-to-man. In man-to-man, the man will take you to the ball, meaning you are responsible for a man. In zone coverage, as I've shared a couple times, we have 3 levels of zone. The deep area, the ball can't get thrown over our head. The intermediate area, we don't want the ball thrown between the under coverage and the over coverage. And the under coverage, 5 yards from the line of scrimmage and 5 yards to the sideline. That's where we want the ball to be thrown, in the under coverage, and we'll trap the mouse, trap it with our speed, and keep the ball in front and inside. Our corners in cover 2, our responsibility. Let me start with our safeties. Our safeties in cover 2 are half-field players. If they keep ball off the line of scrimmage, it's their responsibility to work 4 yards outside the hash. 4 yards outside the hash, I tell them to get 4 by 18. 4 yards outside the hash, 18 yards deep as quickly as they possibly can. Keep their shoulders square so they can break to their right and their left. Play everything downhill, be deeper than the deepest, and get your eyes on the quarterback. So now as you're looking at the quarterback, as the quarterback's feet settle, you start to settle your feet, and you break on the long arm motion of the quarterback. 4 yards outside the hash is the midpoint of your zone. As a deep half player, you're responsible from the middle of the uprights to the sideline on either side. You're a deep half responsible player right there. Deep half responsibility. Our corners are what we call a jam technique. On run, they're keying the end man on the line of scrimmage. If they get end man low hat, flow at them, they're the primary force player from the secondary. They're taking an angle 1 yard inside the alignment of number 1. If they beat them to that spot, go make a play. If this receiver's any good, he'll stock block him. You put your helmet under his chin, and you knock him back, and you keep the play in front and inside, or at least you make the play make a drastic bubble so our pursuit can come from inside out. If you get low hat, flow away, you rotate through the safety. A rotation will begin right now. Clockwise or counterclockwise rotation will begin right away. If the end man on the line of scrimmage high hats or releases, that tells you pass. And now it's your job to get a jam on the number 1 receiver. We want to deny the outside release and react to the inside release. Funnel him back to the inside where your help is, to the hole in the post. Your responsibility is to protect the fade or void area, protecting your safety at all costs, and reacting to the flat based on the threat of a number 2 receiver and the front hand of the quarterback coming off the ball. If you have no threat at 2, if he's going vertical or there is number 2, you continue to get depth with the number 1 receiver. Our star and our will are check down players. They work 10 to 12 yards deep on the hash. As the quarterback's feet settle, their feet settle. And they get their eyes on the quarterback. So when the quarterback's feet settle, they get their shoulders turned the direction the quarterback's shoulders are turned, and they break on the front hand of the quarterback coming off the ball right there. They break on the indicators of the quarterback. Now, you've all seen some of the Tampa 2 coverage. Our Mike now, he protects the middle of the field. The weakness in any cover 2 are the void areas behind the corners and down the middle of the field. Those are your seams in any 2-deep concept right there. When we protect the void areas by the corners jamming or rerouting the receivers, we protect the middle of the field with the Mike turning and working. He opens the number 3, the passing strength, and he works 18 to 22 yards down the middle of the field. And we want him to force lift on the football. A key coaching point for us is for the safeties, any outside throw, generally that window is going to be at 20 to 25 yards right there. That's a flatter break for our safeties. Any middle of the field throw is going to be thrown at 30 yards because of the drop of the mic, and we expect him to force lift on the throw, and we expect our safeties to play downhill. Now, split one lock is called on 1st and 10, 3rd and intermediate versus 10 and 21 personnel. 12 and 21 personnel. Tight 2 to us is a 2nd and long, 3rd and long call, called in a situation where we anticipate some type of pass in that situation. Anything we call out a tight, we can also tag the term wide. And all wide does is move the 7 technique from a 7 to a 9 and puts him instead of a C gap player, as a D gap player, and enables him to get a little better pass rush on a second and long, third and long type call right there. So we call this, as I said, on second and long, third and long to defend the pass. If we anticipate run or if it's a 50-50 down, we'll utilize line movements to cancel gaps. It's not as if we can't stop the run out of cover 2 right there. Our linebackers will slide, where in split one lock, our safeties will spin adjust to handle any third receiver adjustments. In tight 2, our linebackers will slide adjust, stay on a rope to handle any third wide receiver adjustments. So that if there's a breakout to that side, the will slide adjusts, and the Mike and the star become 30 techniques. Any breakout to the strong side, our star apexes the number 2 receiver in the center, and the Mike and the will stem the 30 techniques. And we recognize now that this is 6-man front football, that they have enough people in the box to block us in the run game. But keep in mind, what's weak is weak. We're calling this in a situation where we anticipate pass, and we want to double or reroute on the outside on the number 2, on the receivers, playing safety help over the top. What I'll do is I'll show a handful of clips of this, see if it gets any questions rocking, and go for the rest of the tight package. Because out of tight, we have some different things that we can do to outnumber your ass in the box and kind of go from there. So let's see what we got. Is it tight 2 first? All right, here we go, tight 2. All right. Now, we like this versus any personnel group. So this is against Kentucky, 10 personnel. Ball's on the left hash. We declare that on the left hash. So stud right, right, all right? So actually, if you watch our safeties, they're tilt disguising. They're working a little bit of a tilt, disguise right there. Trying to work together, not bad. Good look, both corners get end man on the line of scrimmage high-hatting. So they transition their eyes to the number 1 receiver and work a jam on him. Now the corner at the bottom is going to get a little better jam. He's got to slide his feet. Play basketball with him. You got a 5-yard box, 2.5 yards to your inside, 2.5 yards to the outside. You want to work a jam. If he works to the edge of that box, now you want to turn it from a 2-hand jam to a 1-handed jam. Zone turn, getting your eyes back inside through number 2 to the quarterback. Blind wedge his ass. Play underneath the fade of 1 and over top the flat of 2. Now this is quick throw by the quarterback, almost 3-step transitioning right here. So he does a pretty good job transitioning, getting his eyes back inside. The quarterback fools him here, actually, and throws the ball on the fade. I like to see him get a blind wedge, play deep to short, force the ball to be thrown to the flat and react. Our safeties do a pretty good job getting off the hash. As the quarterback gives you that long arm motion, I expect all of our players to be in position where their shoulders are turned, the direction the quarterback's shoulders are turned, and in a position where they're making a good break on the football right there. Steven, go ahead. Yes, I'd like to see him now. A receiver, if he wants to release outside, is going to get outside. And what I mean by that is, I said a minute ago, you got a 5-yard box, 2.5 yards to your inside, and 2.5 yards to the outside. If that guy releases to your outside within the framework of that 5-yard box, I want to draw the charge. I want to funnel his ass back inside to the safety. Position on 2 is more important than a quality jam on 1. So if he works to the edge of that box or wider, you transition that from a 2-handed jam to a 1-handed jam to a position jam. If he works over 2.5 yards to the outside, he's really jamming himself by flattening his release. So you get a blind wedge, you transition, getting a blind wedge on him, get zone eyes back to the inside through number 2 while syncing with the number 1 receiver. So if he works to my outside, I slide my feet. I turn it from a 2-handed jam to a 1-handed jam to a position jam, blind wedging him right there. I always say look and lean and blind wedge. I'm playing underneath the fade of 1 and over top the flat of 2. This corner comes off a 1 too quickly in an attempt to play number 2 to the flat. Go back to the topic sentence. This is what I call a no cover zone. Nothing can get thrown over our head. Want nothing between the safeties and the under coverage. Want it to be thrown to the flat. Void area here, void area here, void area here. This area is protected by the jammer reroute of the corners. This area is protected by the Mike middle run right here. Do not like the corner here. Do not like the corner. We did not play cover 2 very well with our corners this year. We need to improve that as the 2012 season gets near to us. good open to the mic, by the mic there, I thought. We just opened that window. You can see the corner coach coming up and telling him he's got to keep single and one there. All right, here we go, cover 2 in the bowl game right here. This is probably 3rd and long as you look at it. We're in wide cover 2 here. All right, so pretty good here. Let's see the corner at the bottom. I'd like to see there. This receiver takes a big-ass release. So he's got to slide his feet and get a two-handed jam to a one-handed jam to a position jam. As that guy goes outside, there you go. There's a blind wedge looking through number 2 to the quarterback. No threat of 2. He keeps sinking with 1. The star and the will work 10 to 12 on the hash. Once the quarterback's feet get set, they should settle their feet. They do a pretty good job. The Mike's working 18 to 22 down the middle of the field. This corner does a decent job. That receiver goes exceptionally far outside. Get his eyes back through number 2 to the quarterback. Get a blind wedge. Safeties are doing a pretty good job getting 4 outside the hash. Great look at what drill that we talked about. Scramble drill right here. Guys keep their zone integrity, keep their zone discipline. 42's a knucklehead. We watched Caleris for 3 weeks here and said we got to contain. He tries a spin move to the inside. Now, 74's got to do a better job if this is some type of design twist, making it right here. But I do not like that we allow him to scramble, especially to throwing hand side right there. But the zone integrity is done pretty good right here. And here's a good example of the drill. This is exactly where we set the receivers. So he works out, he works deep, he works across, he works there. Everybody gets their depth. And for the most part, we do a half-decent job maintaining our zone integrity in the bowl game right there. Contain, contain, contain. All right, here's against Kentucky again, wide cover 2. All right, so stud right, right. We're in wide. We move him out to a 9 technique right here. All right, here's a good job here. Corner sees the end man on line of scrimmage release. He gets a jam on 1. 1 works to the inside. He gets a two-handed jam. Starts to work position, getting depth and width underneath the potential corner of 1. Eyes back inside to number 2. Great job by the outside linebacker here, working 10 to 12 on the hash. As the quarterback feet get set, he gets his shoulders turned the direction his shoulders are turned, and he cuts through the flight of the ball. Now, unfortunately here, he probably knocks it away from the corner when it would be a nice interception. I don't like our star here. He's just got to pass that route off, working 10 to 12 yards deep inside. Like to see this corner keep his shoulders a little bit more square, slide back inside, finish a jam on the inside release with your outside hand to unlock your hips, getting depth and width. Safeties are okay here, working 10 to 12 off the hash, playing everything from the top down. And we actually had on here, it looks like what we called elk. Elk for us was, where we actually dropped both tackles to play shallow crosses, things along those lines. We had 2 interceptions on elks this year. You can see a little bit of a different gig here we had on 3rd and long. We did some unorthodox things in an attempt to get the job done. Good play by Carl. He likes to jump and leap a lot. Knocks it away from Andre Hell. All right, Wake Forest. Wide 2. All right, so you got a stud right, stud left, left. Cover 2. And again, this is the same guy before. I'd like to see him slide his feet like you're playing basketball. End man releases, that tells you pass. Get a jam on 1, deny the outside release, react to the inside release, 5-yard box, 2.5 to your inside, 2.5 to your outside. Slide your feet, get a jam, eyes back inside through 2 to the quarterback, defend the fade area, react to the flat. That's okay. Now transition up. Same linebacker right here. Once the quarterback's feet get set, you settle your feet. You 2-on-1 tackle. Here's our 2-on-1 tackling drill as the ball's thrown there. You're inside out to the ball. You're outside into the ball. I like the star here. He sees the ball thrown, gets his shoulders turned. The Mike's working 18 to 22 yards. Both safeties do a decent job working 4 yards outside the hash, 18 yards deep. They get their shoulders turned as the quarterback's shoulders get turned, and they break on the long arm motion of the quarterback right there. Not bad. Not bad. All right, tight 2 against South Carolina, looks like. All right, they give us a bunch here. So the corners adjust their alignment slightly. Stud right. Got a little twist game going on here. That's what we call a U stunt over there. End talking to the tackle. All right. Mike does a good job working 18 to 22 down the middle of the field. All right. Safety does a good job getting width. Because of the bunch set, our corners don't need to get jams. They can punch themselves for depth and width, crack their pads, cushion underneath the corner, play over top the flat. Safeties do a decent job looking at the shoulders of the quarterback. The weakness of Tampa 2 coverage is with the Mike working 18 to 22 down the middle of the field. The check down, right in the void area where the Mike vacates. That's why the star and the will have to work 10 to 12 yards deep. No deeper than that. Keep the shoulders square. And as the quarterback's feet get set, they settle their feet. They get their shoulders turned the direction the quarterback's shoulders are turned, and they react to the indicators of the quarterback. The best in the world at that was Derek Brooks. Derek Brooks was the best in the world, best pass defender in the world at the linebacker position in the Tampa 2 scheme. Pretty good job there, but for the most part, by the guys. All right, last couple, and then we'll go. I talked about sometimes the threat of the blitz is better than the blitz itself. We just tagged the term show here. So safeties are yo-yo disguising. The will, the Mike, and the star are up on the line of scrimmage right there like they're blitzing. Probably got the quarterback to make some type of checkoff. And now we're punching out to the Tampa 2 scheme right here. Corners do a good job. End man on the line of scrimmage, high hats. Corners are getting a jam on the number 1 receiver. This is what I call a hammer route now. The will linebackers, you look at this, he can't jump this. He almost opens the window right there because this guy, the dig route's almost open. Remember, this is a no cover area right there. Force the ball to be thrown there. Trap the mouse. You're inside out. Corners outside in. The star does a decent job. The Mike works 18 to 22. Safeties are in pretty good position right here. Here's a good look by the corner, getting a blind wedge. He blind wedges the receiver with no threat of 2. He can keep sinking with number 1. I do not like the star except for the fact that somehow, some way he anticipated and did a pretty good job making a play on that. I think if the quarterback would have had the presence of mind to throw the dig, he might have been open. Not bad. How wide? Wide? 10 to 12 on the hash. No wider than the hash. He expands a little too much for my liking right there. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here that he was reading the indicators of the quarterback. I think it's a good example of him having vision on the quarterback and seeing that, though. So I'm not going to, I probably won't be too critical on that. Hash mark is where you want him to go, 10 to 12 yards on the hash. All right, last play, and then we'll go on to a different gig here. So Tampa 2 versus a 3-by-1. So we got an interior twist going here, what we would call a nat. Nose first, tackle second. Wide 2. So 3 technique is to the tight end. We called wide, so he moves out to a 9. 1 and a 5 are away. Let's watch our corner. Good jam by the corner at the bottom. Good job by the corner at the top. This guy's kind of jerking around. He does a decent job. Easy drops for the star and the will. They work 10 to 12 yards deep on the hash. Mike, easy drop, 18 to 22 down the middle of the field. Safeties are pretty good here, working 4 yards outside the hash. Shoulders square, everything downhill, ball conscious. I think the safety to the field does a good job here as they try to run some type of double cut. Gets off the hash and makes a pretty good hit on the receiver. It's kind of a slant and go as you look at the play. Corner plays the slant. He continues with no threat of 2 or 2 to the flat right there. But he plays the look of the quarterback. He's underneath the fade of 1, forces lift on the throw, buys time for the safety. Real kind of small window right there. Safety gets off the hash, and rather than play the ball, I think he does a good job, coming off and making a pretty good hit on the receiver right there. Pretty good job. See if we got any other good ones here. I'll show this one just for fun for all you Tennessee fans. All right, down in the red zone, last play, right? Tight 2 elk. I like this on 3rd and medium where we drop both tackles. You got a little bit of a bunch concept here. So again, the corner to the bottom does a good job getting depth and width cushioned underneath the fade route. Key in the red zone playing cover 2 is safety's not working any deeper. They work to the middle of the end zone. Our underneath coverage guys settle on the goal line. Great job by the linebacker settling on the goal line. Tyler Bray forces one, cuts in front, and we got a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown. Go Vols. Huh? I didn't hear Rocky Top when we did that. No, it's on them. It's on them. A cheap shot by the quarterback, as a matter of fact. I'll show it so you can watch him. Really kind of a cheap play. Watch the quarterback get pissed off from behind right here, and he cuts number 42 when he's not looking. All right, not my fault you threw it right to our guy. So it was on them. So there you go. Pretty good idea, pretty good look at that right there. Here's a good job right here by the corner at the top. You asked about that before. He does a great job here, staying connected. He slides his feet, and now he gets a blind wedge, stays connected. Ball's thrown in that void. I think that's one freaking hell of a job right there. That's the Tampa 2 scheme. I'm a big believer. You hear Phil Jackson talk about the triangle offense and spacing. When I look at our cover 2, I'm always looking for spacing. I'm looking for a triangle on the outside and a triangle on the outside. Or if you're really looking for something, if you want to look for it, it looks like a 5 on a dice down the middle of the field. Your 2 check down players, your Mike down the middle, and your safeties on the hash. And you got pretty damn good spacing right there. And as I talked to you before, I really am a big fan of having zone eyes. Everybody seeing the ball thrown. Rather than pattern reading and shit like that. I like guys to see the ball thrown, have good vision on the quarterback right there. Good vision on the quarterback. I can keep going all day with some of this stuff. So your guys' call. You want to watch the film? Or you want to go into next defense now? All right, let's keep going then. Let's go to a different. We can still go to a different deal here. There we go. Perfect. Tight 3Y. All right. So out of that tight look. All right. Pretty good little deal here. Now we're showing tight 3Y for us. Means we're showing the tight defense, all right? And we're remember, in our star deal, we're stepping the safety down in the box that we want to create an 8-man spacing. So when we had a star in, our star was hybrid, half safety, half linebacker. So we're showing a cover 2 shell. As the quarterback begins his cadence, we're trying to invite them into a situation where they're running a football and step a safety down. So all we do is make a sky left or a sky right call. So right here we actually, because it's a 2x2, make a sky left call. So the free safety's walking into the box and the strong safety's working back. So he's our curl to flat player weak. Our stars are curl to flat player strong. Suddenly we got 8-man spacing. Stars our D gap player. Ends our C gap. 3 techniques our B gap. Mike's our A gap player. 1 technique's our A gap. Will's our B gap. C gap, he's our D gap player. Now they end up throwing a pass right here. So we're now in tight 3Y. We're in 3 deep, 4 under. So the stars are curl to flat player. He drives 1x10 inside the alignment of number 1. Our Mike's our weak, strong hook to curl player. Our Will's our weak hook to curl player. And our free safety's our weak curl to flat player. Corners got outside third. Strong safety's got middle third right here. So we made a sky right call. Again, good vision on the ball. You see the underneath throw in our no cover area. I think especially as you look at this, the star and the Will have good vision on the quarterback. There's your 2-on-1 tackle right here. 2-on-1. 22, I don't like his body angle, but worst case scenario, he at least turns it in, forces the guy to make a drastic bounce, and 22 stays on the backside hip right there. Pretty good pursuit to the ball from the back end guys right there. A lot of white jerseys to the football, man, as the ball's loose. Right there, that's a pretty good picture of people running the ball, man. Good job. And you can see Eric's pissed they didn't turn that in. All right, tight 3Y. All right, so again, stud left, left, left. Because it's a 2x2, we make a sky left call. So we're showing cover 2. Free safety walks down in the box. He's now the D gap player. The Will's the A gap. The Mike's the B gap. And our star, who was a safety for us in this game, is our D gap player. Same exact deal. Weak curl to flat, weak hook to curl, strong hook to curl, strong curl to flat. Out of the tight defense, now we've created the illusion that we're in a 2-deep shell and we walk the safety down late. Scramble mechanics again. Deep routes will go short, short routes will go deep. It's never perfect, but we've got to do a good job. Left end's got to do a better job of contain again. I don't know. Again, I said against Wake Forest, I don't know what we were thinking at times. But you see a pretty good job, and I thought we kept a good zone integrity right there. I thought our zones were pretty good. All right, against Wake Forest again. Good job against the run here. Free safety is our D-gap player. We showed a 2 shell. Hopefully we invited them into a run situation. and then we stepped our safety down into the D gap. So he's got the D, the end's got the C, the 3 technique's got the B gap, the linebacker to that side is the Will has the A gap, the nose has the A, the Mike has the B, the end has the C. This guy's got to be out over number 2. He's our force player. That's a pretty good job. We outnumber them in the box right there. And 31 stepping down in the box does a pretty good job right here. So there's a good look. A gap or B gap, A gap. He's got the A, B, C, D. 28 does a good. 28 and 13 do a good job. 28 secures his gap, then comes off as the ball carrier. Great job by 58, really. Does a good job. Watch, hands on the center. He does a good arm over move right there, securing his gap, I think. 98 and 97 do a great job not getting cut off. And good job on a 2-on-1 tackle right there. Pretty well done. No, he's not. Good job here. Tony Franklin's deal. You talk about all this shit, right? So stud right. Right. All right. Again, free safety down into the box creates the 8-man spacing. So he's the C gap player, A gap, B gap, C gap. 7-man spacing defends the gap. Free safety's our D gap player, Will's our A gap, Mike's our B gap. Now with the zone read, the end bends for the dive. Watch 42 bend for the dive. And there's a gap exchange where our Mike now, he's got B gap, and on the zone read play, he exchanges with the end and is a back player. He's got the bubble, free safety, or this is the strong safety actually in this case. Our middle third player is B gap. He's the alley player. And our alley we call is the B gap away from the zone initially. Good job by the free safety forcing the D gap right there. Tight end blocks out of him. He's a double arm bar player. So initially we showed a shell, 2 shell, walk the safety down into the box. Good job by the end on the bend technique right there. Really, 42 does a hell of a job, and he is a senior. Good gap exchange by 42 and 13 right there. Good job by 42 and 13 on the gap exchange right here. So if the quarterback would have kept it now, 13 had him on the zone read exchange. Good gap fits. All right, now this is a different formation. This is tight 3Y versus a 3-by-1. So now we step the safety down in a 3-by-1 to the tight end side. So we call that sin, safety to the inside. So when we do this now, this is really kind of a rough example because it's empty, but now our stars are strong curl to flat player. Our strong safety becomes a strong hook to curl player. Our Mike becomes our weak hook to curl player. And our Will becomes our weak curl to flat player. Pretty good look at the displacement of the zones here. I think everybody does a really pretty good job of having good vision on the quarterback right here playing their zone coverage. And again, here's a tough one, I think. We lose contain again on the twist game. Not loving us. It's not that we lose contain. He kind of spits through. This is why your zone integrity is so important too. Because the Will now, as the quarterback scrambles, ultimately has to keep the QB inside. Does a good job on that. Kind of loses he doesn't take a great curl to flat drop here to me, but he does a good job ultimately keeping the QB inside. So that's pretty good right there. Please feel free to throw out any questions. All right, tight 3Y versus a 3-by-1 again. So because it's a 3-by-1, instead of sit up in the free safety down, we step the strong safety down. And the best holder of disguise, we stepped him down inside. So we call that safety inside, sin. So he steps down as the D gap player. So it's stud right. So there's your 3 technique, there's your 7 technique, your 1 and your 5. The Mike's the A gap backer. The Will's the B gap backer. And the safety steps down and becomes the D gap backer. Pretty good disguise there, holding the 2 shell. Safety walks down, and somehow, some way, we forced them to, they still were throwing the ball. Pretty good drops. And they run actually 3 verticals with an X under right here. X across. Everybody does a pretty good job on their drops. Ball's thrown. I think we have pretty good vision on the ball. Great example, I think, again, of deep coverage. Ball's not going to be thrown over our head. On that cross, that corner can think post window a bit better than he does. The Will here could take a little better curl to flat drop. But everybody, these guys especially have good vision on the ball. And as the ball's thrown, they do a good job reacting to the under coverage right there and force a very, very, very short completion. I can live with that. Again, you can see that call was on 1st and 10 in an attempt to stop the run. We played tight 3Y a little different in this game. So tight end's over here because we were playing early in the season a linebacker. So that instead of sin, this is just sky right. So the strong safety steps down outside here. All right, so there's our Sam linebacker. He's a D gap. The Mike's an A gap backer. The Will here is a B gap backer. So we got all our gaps covered. And really 36, I don't think, this backer does a good job right here. He gets collected by the guard, which means the one technique's got to keep his outside arm and leg clean. He's got to do a better job. He's got to be more on an edge. Now if they go crack, Casey does a pretty good job on the stock block here. Club wipe, club rip. And here's a good look at what we talked about before, that low tackling where you saw off that outside leg right there, forcing the play back inside. Free safety's in the alley, strong safety through the shallow cutback, field corner over the top right there. Did not like the one technique, did not like number 36. We should be in good shape here. This guy should be better off, and 36 should be on an edge right there. He should be not so much hat in hands, but keeping that outside arm and leg clean on that edge right there. Don't like that. He's engulfed by 61. Pretty good right there. All right, well, we showed you type 2. We showed you a zone, type 3Y. And then out of that star package, where it's a hybrid safety slash linebacker, we can play what we call tight, which sets the 3 and the 7 technique to the tight end again. Cover 1. So in tight 1, all right, stud left, left, left. So there's our 3 and our 7 technique to the stud call. There's our 1 and our 5. In this defense, our strong safety declares to the stud, or to the passing strength. Our star declares with them. Field corner to the field, boundary corner to the boundary. Free safety away from the declaration. We're in this case playing tight, cover 1. We like this call versus 10, 11, and 20 personnel to play cover 1 on rundowns and to outnumber you in the box, and on third and intermediate, second and intermediate, things along those lines. So in the Mike and the Will are in a two-way on the single back. The star always has 2 strong. Corner has 1 strong. Corner has 1 weak. And free safety and strong safety spin off of 2 weak and 3 strong. So the star and the free safety here have the slot receivers in what we call a city technique. So they do a pretty good job. As 2 goes to the flat and 2 goes to the flat, they dive on it right there. I think they do a pretty good job covering those guys. The corners are playing what we call a 3-10-30 technique, where they clue the quarterback through 3-step. No 3-step. Eyes now to the inside number and hip. Hips drop, stride shortens. They challenge the intermediate cut right there. 23, does a great job right here. Hips drop, stride shortens. He closes on the cut. He hooks with his right arm, shoots his left arm, and breaks up the pass. The strong safeties are numbers to numbers or deep player right here. Pretty good coverage right here in man-to-man, really. They're in what we call, again, a two-way on the back. So what that means is if the back steps to this side, he's got him, and he becomes the maze or the whole player. If he would step that way, he has him, and he becomes the maze or the whole player. So in that case, I would have said 15 probably had him, and 13 was going to be the maze or the whole player. They should be a bit tighter on him for checkdowns and things along those lines there. Here you go. Good look against Wake Forest. Tight 1 on. So stud left. Left, left. 3 and 7 to the left. 1 and 5 to the right. Will's a B gap backer. Mike's an A gap backer. Strong safety declares Liz. Star's married with him. Corners are press on the outside, meaning we tag the word on. Free safety says to the strong safety, I'm down, spin alert. He's going to play a city technique. He's going to play a city technique on number 2. Corners are press on 1. Do not like the field corner here. He's got a glide. He's got an arm bar. He starts to reroute or jam with the wrong arm there. He's got to get his left arm on him so he doesn't lock his hips. Do not like the city technique of the star here. Like to see him funnel the receiver back to his inside where his help is to the hole in the post. He's our maze and hole player. He should have the back man-to-man. Good job by the free safety as he steps down. He dives on the cut right there. Does a good job. It's in this particular case, if you look, it was 4th and 3. does a good job with what I call plant, open, and drive. Good footwork, plant, open, and drive. His vision's on the hips of the receiver. Hips of the receiver drops. He dives on the cut. Great job, pretty good job by the corner at the top. Glide, arm bar at the left arm. Takes away the intermediate cut right there. Matches the steps, does a good job. That's Casey Hayward, probably be a middle round draft. Pardon? 3 by 1? If he were over, if we're cover 3? He wouldn't say sin because he's outside. He'd just say sky right. So you're exactly right, though. In that tight 3Y coverage, because it's a 2 by 2, our free safety steps down. So we try to make those two coverages look exactly alike. Only we're playing zone there. So he'd step down and say sky, meaning safety force right. So he'd be the sky right player. He'd still be the B gap. He'd still be the A gap. He'd be the curl to flat player strong. He'd be the curl to flat player weak. Our strong safety would be our middle third player, and our corners would be our outside third players. If this receiver were over here, all right, if we're man-to-man, the strong safety would come down and have him, and the free safety would be back. If we were playing 3Y, the strong safety would come down and say sky left, sin, 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 meaning he's coming down to the inside. So our star is our curl to flat player. He's our strong hook to curl. He's our weak hook to curl. He's our weak curl to flat player. We try to make tight 3Y and tight 1 look the same. You're exactly right on that. He just wouldn't make a sin call there. He'd just make a sky call. But you got the right idea. Awesome. All right, I'll answer that right here. Let's see if we got one more place. Here we got. Great job here, and then I'll answer your question. This is Casey right here playing 3-10-30. It's a good 3-10-30. So alignment first. All right, 6 yards from the line of scrimmage. Divider rules off of number 1 right here. So number 1's inside the numbers. Ball's in the middle field. Casey probably took an outside leverage on him right here. What we coach on off technique is your key. On off technique, we want to clue the quarterback for 3-step. So we're going to get in a slow pedal through the 3-step with our eyes on the quarterback. All right. If we get any type of 3-step, generally in an off position, that'll be a slant or a hitch. We're going to clue the quarterback through 3-step. Any type of slant, we're driving through the upfield shoulder, putting our face on the ball. Any type of hitch, we're driving through the outside shoulder. Only come underneath if we can get 2 hands on it. We want to hook with the outside arm, shoot the inside arm other than that. Not leave ourselves vulnerable for the out and up, or the hitch and go, or the slant and go right there, or any yards after the catch. Once 3-step clears, we transition our eyes to the inside number and hip, or outside number and hip, depending on our leverage. We want to stay in our back pedal as long as I can. 3-10-30 represents the levels of the routes. 3 represents the quick throws, 3-step game. 10 represents the intermediate throws. If possible, we want to be able to stay in our back pedal through the intermediate area, letting the cushion close, challenging the intermediate routes. Once the hips drop, stride shortens, any inside progression, again, we want to beat them to the interception point, putting our face on the ball. Any outside progression, we want to work to the outside shoulder of the upfield shoulder of the receiver, attacking the upfield shoulder with our outside arm and shooting with our inside arm, not leaving ourselves vulnerable to the out and up. Once the intermediate route's clear, we turn in man-to-man coverage, we turn into the man. So if he goes on a deep route, we turn into him like Casey's about to do here. All right, so if he runs a streak, we get into phase with our elbow on top and our hips behind. We want to get ourselves into phase. And now as we're in phase, if we're in phase, as his eyes go back, his hands go up, we look and lean on the receiver, getting our eyes back to the ball and looking back to the ball. If he works to the post, we work to the upfield shoulder on the post right here. Now watch Casey. Good job. No 3-step. Eyes to the outside number and hip. Now he's running, so Casey's cushion's been challenged. Now as he gets into phase, and technically he's a little bit out of phase here, but he gets his eyes back to the ball, and technically I'd like to see him do a little better job with make this break up with the other hand right here probably, but he does make a pretty good play on Joe Adams right there, or Darius Ray. Now watch Trey at the bottom. He gets an intermediate cut. He looks at the quarterback through the 3-step. Now he transitions his eyes to the inside number and hip. Hips drop, stride shortens. He's working to the outside shoulder right there, not leaving himself vulnerable to the out and up or to the hitch and go, anything along those lines. The two inside guys are playing a city technique. They don't back up. They hot their feet and they essentially absorb, catch, collision, and carry the receivers, funnel them back to their safety help. 21 here is our numbers the numbers guy. He does a great job, and as Tyler Wilson is looking to the field there, he does a good job looking at the quarterback's front shoulder. Clearly, he's throwing to the defense's right, and based on his level of his shoulder, he's throwing deep, and Sean does a decent job on that. Great, good play by Casey right there. Good play. He probably really should have been careful about looking back to the ball, candidly. All right. I'll talk it through, and then we'll watch, because this is a pretty good example by Trey at the bottom. All right. I talked about this before. Regardless of the technique that I'm ever teaching, the first thing I think it's important to have a teaching progression. So I always start out, every coverage that I do, I always talk about stance, alignment, key, and responsibility. So in bump and run man, our stance. All right. What we want in bump and run man is our stance. We want a square stance. You know, everybody used to be in the Dion stance or whatever. Let me take a step back. The first thing about bump and run man, I don't try to make every single guy that I'm coaching bump and run man the same. No two individuals are the same. Body types are different. Arm lengths are different. Ability, are different. So I don't try to make people the same. I talked about it before. There's style and there's fundamentals. There's certain fundamentals that I believe in. And it starts here. We're in a square stance with our feet underneath our armpits in bump and run man. Feet underneath the armpits, square stance. Weight on the balls of the feet. On the inside knuckle of our feet, on our big toe, but our heels still touching the ground because we don't want to get overextended. All right? We want flexion in our ankle, knee, and hip with our chest over knees, nose over toes. That base stance that we talked about. Knees bent, chest up, eyes up. All right? Feet armpit width apart. All right? Eyes up. We want our hands, I don't care whether our hands are at our knees or our chin, but I want them ready to strike. Because bump and run man is combative. We want our hands ready to strike, and I don't want you to drop your hands as the ball's snapped. Our vision, all right, that's our stance. Our alignment, all right, we split the crotch of the receiver to the inside. We're not shoulder tip to shoulder tip. We split the crotch of the receiver to the inside. So if the ball's in there and the receiver's here, my outside knee is right down his crotch. I'm thick on the receiver, all right? Our alignment is, if the receiver's on the line of scrimmage, we want to be 1 yard from the line of scrimmage. If the receiver's off the line of scrimmage, we want to crowd the line of scrimmage as best we can without being offsides. That's our alignment, stance alignment. Our key, what are we looking at? We dead key the receiver. Our vision is on the inside number and hip of the receiver. We don't look inside. We don't do anything like that. Our vision is on the inside number and hip of the receiver. We're dead keying the receiver. Stance, alignment, key. And our responsibility clearly is the man-to-man on the receiver. I have a 3-word term I use when I do bump and run coverage. Glide, armbar, elbow wedge. Now what's that mean? The glide, that's the initial confrontation. There's 3 things that a player can do in bump and run coverage when you glide. The first thing you can do when you glide is nothing at all. You see some long arm corners just stand there. So on the snap of the ball, they let the receiver, do all his crap at the line of scrimmage and stuff like that. Nothing. Just stare at the hip and be ready to strike. The second thing you can do is what I call a zit step. Hot your feet in place right there. You see a lot of guys hot their feet, ready to strike. And the third thing is what I call motor, where you just give a little bit of ground grudgingly right there. Just give a little bit of ground with your feet underneath your armpits, gaining ground extremely grudgingly. Not getting out of there, but giving ground grudgingly. That's the glide portion. What are you doing there? You're keeping your eyes on the hips of the receiver right there. You're delaying the confrontation for a split second so he just doesn't lunge over top of you right there. Now, there's other things you can do too. Versus a tall, slow receiver, you can quick jam him. You can screw your hips and bail. You can do shit like that. But right now, just talking the bump and run, the glide. The second part's the arm bar. All right, so glide, arm bar. What's arm bar mean? Well, we want to arm bar the receiver. We want to strike the receiver now. We arm bar with the arm opposite of his release. So if he releases to my right, I'm going to hot my feet. I'm going to arm bar with my left hand right now. And arm bar is a real strike. We lock out the elbow. We get a bench press head. We keep our head and shoulders back. We don't lunge at him. We're not punching, but we're striking him now. And I call it a good knife fight. It's a good knife fight right there. You're trying to strike him with your head and shoulders back, not lunging at him. One thing that I've gone to is I used to say aim for the center of a single-digit number. Now I use the near armpit as an aiming point with your thumb up like you're carrying a small child. That gives you your strength and your leverage right there. So we aim for that right there. So we opposite arm jam. If he releases to my right, I reroute him with my left arm. If he releases to my left, I reroute him with my right arm. And I don't open my hips to 180, and I don't open them to 90. I open them somewhere in between. And then again, when you're doing the drills with the guys, you start out with your hands behind your back, and you have the guy release. You just slide your feet, at the diagonal like you're doing Hoosiers 1954, slide down the field, deny the ball, make them turn in basketball right there. It's the exact same thing. So that's how we handle that right there. And then you put the arm in. You put the arm in. You put the arm in. If the receiver works outside to inside and I haven't had to turn my hips, I don't speed turn. I set and reset. So if he outside, I glide, he outside, and then he inside sets on a quick slant like every receiver in America does, 2 steps and work to the inside. I set and I reset, and I wash his ass down the line of scrimmage nice and flat right there. And I'm violent and I'm aggressive with it. It's not open and run, it's bump and run. And we want to be physical with the receiver at the line of scrimmage. Once we've glided, arm bar, now we turn it into an elbow wedge. So once the receiver starts to clear my hips, I'm doing no good by trying to reroute or jam his ass anymore. So now I turn that arm bar into an elbow wedge. An elbow wedge means I want my elbow on top, hips behind. And I want my vision, if I can, on his outside. I'm still, to maintain elbow on top, hips behind supremacy, I'm trying to get that vision, believe it or not, on that outside hip. And that's kind of theoretical, but if I'm trying to get the vision on the outside hip, then I'm working to stay on top of him right there. I'm working hard to stay on top of him. So we talk elbow on top, hips behind, vision on the outside hip right there. And now I get myself into what I call phase. And phase is elbow on top, hips behind. When I'm in phase now, if the receiver runs a comeback, I match the steps. I'm still looking at his outside number and hip. If he runs a comeback, I match the steps. I do a drill with him I call chop and throttle, where he'll match the steps, match the steps, match the steps, and I'm ready to make a play on the comeback. Once that comeback area clears, the 10 in 3-10-30, by the way, now I'm in the fade area. And now once I clear that, I transition my eyes from the hips to the ear hole. The ear hole to the eyes and ear hole of the quarterback. When he looks back to the ball and his eyes go back, if I'm in phase, I look back to the ball. And I initiate contact with my outside shoulder. And I look and lean on the receiver, ready to make a play. I always cut out pictures in Sports Illustrated or off ESPN.com. The best pictures in those are when you see guys with their legs in the air going up for the ball like that. Those are cool pictures to me. And I always you got to be able to play tall and do those things. If you're out of phase, you're inside the numbers, or you're in the red zone, then I don't ever look back for the ball. We talk to our guys about playing the hands. And what that means is, if I'm in the red zone, things happen too quickly. I don't think you can try to look back for the ball. I don't think it's geometrically possible to look for the ball. If you're out of phase, meaning he's beaten me, you haven't afforded yourself the right to look back for the ball, so you got to play the hands. And if you're inside the numbers, there can be too much lateral separation. He can lean on you and work away from you, so I don't think you can look back to the ball in that situation either. So if that happens, if we're out of phase, we play the hands. And what that means is if the ear hole goes back, eyes go up, hands go up, we tear our inside arm through his outside arm and try to tear down the backboard and prevent the one-handed catch right there. We don't wind up. We're running, we see the ear hole go back, eyes go up, bam! We're just trying to break up that ball and play the hands right there. And we'll do that drill. We'll have our guys running, have a guy do that, play the hands, play the hands, play the hands. We'll just do a drill without a ball even in place to do that. That was it right there. No, just he runs. So if you're the receiver, I'll say to you every few steps, just put your hands up. Well, yeah, you run a few more steps. Oh, okay. Yeah. So when you put them up, I just break down the ball right there, just kind of get them going and just playing the hands right there. It's not that one's an easy one. And same thing, we'll do it if we're in phase. So go ahead if we're in phase. Go ahead, look back. I look back. Then we do it again. I look back. I look back. And one of the keys, I think, too, and you see all these announcers on television say he never looked back for the ball. I've never heard anybody else talk about this besides me, so I don't know if I'm just messed up or I think maybe I'm onto something. The DBs, I think the biggest mistake I think a DB makes when he looks for the ball is he looks back, not up. If you look back for the ball, that's not where the ball is. The ball's up. So I always tell our guys, I never say look back for the ball. I say look up for the ball. You look up, not back. So when the ball's coming, look up, not back. If you're looking back, the ball's there. I think that's when you watch DBs, they're out of position because they're not looking where the ball actually is. They're looking, where the ball was thrown from. So I think that's a common mistake that guys make. So that's our bump and run technique. Now, if we're playing a 3-10-30 technique, the off man, all right? So we talked about that. Let me ask this. Is this helping at all? I mean, is this better or worse? Is this what you're looking for? Keep going with a one off man, or do you want to do something else? All right, off man, what we tell the guys is this. Again, I'm a big believer in progressions. And I always talk about 3-10-30. And that's, everybody steals from somebody. You'll take home this bump and run and claim it as your own, but you heard it here, or I heard it from someone else, or whatever it is right there. 3-10-30 was Tony Dungy teaching his off man-to-man. I thought it was great. And I still use it to this day. I've heard it about 15 years ago. 3-10-30 takes you through the levels of the routes. 3 represents the 3-step. 10 represents the intermediate routes. 30 represents the deep routes. 3-10-30. 3-10-30. All right, so again, alignment. Stance and alignment. In our stance, a base stance for us is feet armpit width apart and off man. All right, feet armpit width apart. Outside foot up, inside foot back with a toe to instep relationship. Knees bent, chest up, eyes up. Wrist at knee level to ensure a nice bend in the knees. And I know back in the olden days, I think everybody coached stance and start. I don't think you see DBs in stance. I think we're doing so much of this nowadays, walking around and things like that stance is a little overrated. Remember, style and fundamental. I do believe knees bent, chest up, eyes up, but I don't overcoach. You got to be there like this and rigid and all that stuff because the best hitters, the best golfers are always kind of moving around, and that's, when I watch our guys, it's, they're at their best when they're just doing stuff like this. So knees bent, chest up, eyes up. That's what I say. All right, stance. Alignment. Alignment for us is 6 yards from the line of scrimmage. Not the receiver, the line of scrimmage. All right, 6 yards from the line of scrimmage and off man. All right, that's your alignment. Alignment on the receiver is based on his split. I'm not going to get totally specific with you on this, but if the split of the receiver is a normal split or a tight split, and you have help to the post, we're going to play outside leverage on him, meaning we want to take away the outside cut and funnel him back to the inside where your help is to the post and the hole. If it's a big split, we'll move to an inside leverage in anticipation of a post cut or an inside progression. And because of the big split, he may render our help to the hole in the post useless because of the route he's running. All right, so that's your alignment. Your key, as I told you before, I'm not a big believer in trying to make everybody the same. What I prefer is to key the quarterback through the 3-step. So on the snap of the ball, we take a read step and a nice control pedal through the 3-step. Now, we got some guys on our team who can't transition their eyes from the quarterback to the receiver on 3-step. So if that's the case, we dead key the receiver's inside number and hip, and I'm good with that too. I'm good with that. I don't, again, try to make every single guy into a cookie cutter, deal right there. So if that happens now, we key the quarterback through the 3-step. Read step, control pedal. If we get 3-step, man, if we get the 2 routes we'll get an off man and 3-step, as I said a moment ago, are slant. We're going to drive the slant. I'm aggressive on 3-step, man. Don't be hesitant or tentative on 3-step. Just take good angles. Everybody, well, what about a double cut? Your angle, there are no double cuts because on a slant and go, we're going to knock the shit out of him, and on out and up, we're going to knock the shit out of him. So if he goes on a slant, just take a good angle. Work through the upfield shoulder. I always say put your face on the ball, beat him to the interception point, and get your face on the ball so if he runs a slant and go, collision, turn and go, and you eliminate any yards after the catch. If he runs a hitch, which is the second one we do, we end up driving on the hitch to the outside shoulder. If we get there before the ball's there, we also in man-to-man, the man will take you to the ball. We don't look back to the ball until we're close enough to touch the receiver. The biggest mistake I think guys make is when they go to make their break, they look at the quarterback and then they lose sight on the receiver. Then you leave yourself vulnerable to double cuts. Then you leave yourself vulnerable to yards after the catch, things along those lines. So on a hitch, we drive the hitch. And again, if we're close enough to get 2 hands on it, we come underneath, intercept it, and it's sideline. It's the headlines right there. If not, we hook with that outside arm and shoot the inside arm. One of the biggest mistakes I see guys make in pass breakups is being what I call one-hit wonder, where they hook and they try to one-hit wonder it. We shoot the hand and extend the hand. If you're one-hit wonder, you have a tendency to miss the ball on the pass breakup. If you shoot the hand, you got a chance to make the play. And by hooking the receiver, you secure the tackle. And if not, then we just go through the outside shoulder. Again, we don't leave ourselves vulnerable then to the hitch and go or any yards after the catch. Once 3-step clears, now we transition our eyes to the near number and hip of the receiver. So 10 takes me through those intermediate routes. What is an example of the intermediate routes? Ins and outs, things like that. So as that happens, if he runs some type of in route, I let the cushion close, and everybody says, well, when do I open my hips? I don't know. I mean, it all depends on the player's ability, the player going against ability, and a lot of different factors right there. So to me, you certainly let that cushion close and challenge the intermediate routes. You want to challenge the intermediate routes. They say Deion Sanders never got beat by an out because he was never afraid of anybody running by him. I mean, if you got guys like that, you got the whole game in football to me in the secondary is offense is always trying to separate and defense is trying to close. And it's our job to close on the receiver as best we can by the time the ball gets there. So you allow that cushion to close a little bit. And on the inside route, it's all angles then. As he works to the inside, once those hips drop, stride shortens, I'm allowing that cushion to close, take an angle that I can beat him to that interception point and get my face on the ball. Again, hook with my near arm, shoot my forearm right there. If he goes on the outside type progression right there, I'm working to the upfield shoulder. If I'm close enough to touch him, look back to the ball. If I can come underneath, get 2 hands on it. If not, I work to that upfield shoulder, hook, and shoot that arm. And now I don't leave myself vulnerable to the out and up or any yards after the catch, any shit like that. Once the 10 is gone, 3, 10, 30 now I turn into the man. If it's an outside release, I prep, midline, sideline, try to get myself into phase. And once I get myself into phase, it's nothing different than being in phase and bump and run man. If you're in good position and you can and he looks back to the ball, you can look and lean, get your eyes back to the ball, catch it at the highest point. If you're out of phase, you got to play the hands. And the one thing I forgot to say, the phrase we use when you talked about that drill, in phase, out of phase drill, we do eyes. What's eyes mean? Eyes go back, hands go up. Eyes, hands. If you're out of phase, you got to play the hands. And then we do via the neck. Because you see more often than not now, eyes, hands, via the neck. You see when the receiver shows you the V of his neck, that means you're getting what type of throw? The underthrown fade right there. So when that happens, we squat. That's the first thing you got to do. Sink your hips, and we go right through the back shoulder is what we coach him to do. And I have good examples. I don't know if they're on this tape of guys going through the back shoulder and making plays. Because the underthrown fade is the play that everybody's throwing in pro and college football now, that back shoulder fade. And the key to the back shoulder fade is seeing the V of the neck of the receiver. You know, that back shoulder fade is, he shows you that V right there. So when he shows you that, squat and attack the back shoulder and just go through him. You got to play the hands right there. If the receiver runs a post, then it's same shit. You know, we're on those eyes. We work to the upfield shoulder right now. And again, we only come underneath it. We're going to get 2 hands on it. And we're positioned that we can, play any post cuts, funnel them back inside to where our help is to the hole and the post. If we get any type of post corner, you guys know, what do we do on a post corner and man-to-man? Speed turn. Exactly right. Rip that head and shoulders around. Violently rip that head and shoulders around. Get on top of the cut. And again, I always tell our guys to come out on top, hook with the outside upfield arm, and extend the inside arm. And literally, when I'm teaching it, that's exactly what I teach. I go right down the line, 3, 10, 30. Okay, guys, let's line up. Off man now. We're doing off man today. All right, 3-step. One of the 2 routes in 3 steps, slant and hitch. Then we work a double cut off that. All right, let's go out and in or come back and in. Okay, post and streak right there, things along those lines. Okay, post corner. So, go right down the line and just work the routes. It's not, again, don't make it any harder than it is. Press, same thing. All right, inside release, outside release. All right, he works outside to inside. All right, chop and throttle. All right, here's your fade. Okay, let's go. Now let's finish it off. Let's work the finishes. In phase, out of phase. Eyes, hands, via the neck. Let's go from there. And that's what we teach in man-to-man. So I like doing this better. I hope you get. Let's keep going then. Anybody have any other questions? We hardly play any quarters. But if that's what you want to know, we could talk about that. Go ahead. You can look back for the ball if you're in phase or outside the numbers. And the reason is, if you're outside the numbers, there's not a lot of room for the receiver to get, not vertical separation, but horizontal separation on you. If you're inside the numbers, that receiver can give you a little nudge, and then there's plenty of room for some separation right there. Go ahead. Well, we don't play head up. We split the crotch to the inside. Yeah, the guys are too. The reason we don't go, and I see young corners in high school and junior high. I go to my son's 9th grade games. Those guys play bump and run, and they're shoulder tip to shoulder tip on the inside. I'm going to tell you now, Tyler Wilson will throw the fade every single. If you're not thick on him, we take away the inside, we split the crotch, but we got to be thick on him, because if we're too thin on him, we just open the gate and allow the free outside release right there. They're just too good at throwing that fade right there. So you've got to confront him and be thick on him. We're taking away the inside by alignment and technique and recognizing that that's a play that can happen. That's why in our toolbox we'll bail. And yeah, on occasion we'll jump outside and quick jam. I mean, we have different ththings in our toolbox that we can do to take away something like that. Go ahead. Nope, great question. No, and you probably heard me say, and you probably wrote it down 3 times, and you probably went, what the hell is he talking about? City technique, you heard me say. A city technique is how we play man-to-man on a slot receiver. We never press a slot receiver. When we're on a slot receiver, what we do is, again, stance is the same as off man, so I won't get into that now. Alignment. Divider rules by 5 from the line of scrimmage. So what's that mean? If the slot receiver is halfway between the tackle and number 1 or closer to the core of the formation, we play outside leverage because we got help into the hole in the post. If he's closer to the number 1 receiver, we'll move inside leverage. So in normal stance, and then, alignment to us is shoulder tip to shoulder tip too when I say that. On the snap of the ball, our eyes are inside pre-snap, and a lot of times we're walking in and out of it as you saw in the film. On the snap of the ball, we're going to hot our feet though. And we dead key the receiver. So our eyes are on the inside number and hip or outside number and hip based on our leverage. I don't think you can look at the quarterback for 3-step when you're covering a number 2 receiver, because he'll run a slant, a flat, something across the formation. You'll lose him like that if you're looking at the quarterback. So we hot our feet. Our key's the number 2 receiver. If he comes to stock block us, then we'll if he comes to stock block us, we're going to get our hands on him, and we're going to utilize a club rip or a club wipe technique and work to keep the play in front and inside. If he comes to cutoff block us, we're going to use a club rip, club wipe, and pursue through the shallow cutback. If he releases and he's running a route, I coach it exactly the same as I coach 3-10-30. I just coach different routes. What are the 2 short routes the slot runs? A slant or a flat. So if we hot our feet right there and he runs a slant, I use the phrase dive on it. Dive on it. Put your face on the ball. If he works to the flat, dive on it. Work to the upfield shoulder. Don't look back till you're close enough to touch him. If you can come underneath, get 2 hands on it. If not, hook with the outside arm, extend the inside arm. Don't leave yourself vulnerable to the out and up or the wheel route or or yards after the catch. Once that receiver works vertical, we're playing basketball man. We don't give ground. We absorb him at 5 to 7 yards right there. We play bump and run basically from 5 to 7 yards. We absorb, catch, collision, and carry. If he works to the inside, we funnel him. We absorb him, catch, collision, carry, funnel him back to the inside where our help is to the hole in the post. If he works to the outside, we win to the outside by alignment technique because we have help in city technique to the inside to the hole in the post. And if he runs a corner cut, we want to slice or bracket the corner cut. We want to get underneath the corner cut and force the ball to be thrown with height right there, so our numbers, or our free safety player can make a play on the corner cut. I don't know if that answers your question. Versus bunches, we do that some. I mean, we do that versus bunches. Like if we're getting, we have words, like if bunches and stacks, we'll do that too. So I can talk about that for a second. If we're playing man versus a bunch and a stack, there's really 3 things we'll do. And if you watch the Cincinnati game, probably have an example from the Cincinnati film. They did that a lot. If they're stacked, 2 receivers right there, all right, the corner presses the point and the safety plays behind. So I always tell our guys, we look like they look. If they're like that, we look like they look. He just takes him out of the equation, and he reads his release from a city technique. So he's playing press, he's not. If it's a 3-by-1, we have 2 ways to handle it. We can play what we call levels, and the nickel will press the point, and then the safety gets on the next level, and the corner on the next level. And that's if for some reason we don't want to combo this, he presses the point to knock the shit out of him right there. And then if you're getting something like this, he plays the next level so he can play that one. And he plays the deepest level, and he doesn't give any ground so he can work across the field on that one. Levels just means get on different levels so you're not with each other. And the third way we can do it is we can toga it. So for us, if we toga it, that would mean a toga to us means the nickel takes 2 out of the equation, or the star, or whoever that is does, and we combo 1 and 3. So now he's got the first outside route and second inside route. He's got the first inside route and second outside route. So generally, if they're running some type of snag along those lines, he's got that one, he's got that one, he's got that one. The keys to it are getting far enough inside that you can defend it and far enough outside that you can defend it and not backing up. From my perspective as the defensive play caller, I only like the toga when I have a pretty darn good idea as to what the routes are going to be. If there's a chance I'm getting one of numerous routes, that's hard shit right there. I'd rather just play levels and make sure you got your guys, because the worst thing you could do in man-to-man is cut a guy loose. I'd rather fight through picks like Bobby Knight style, than change things and do things like that. But if you got a pretty good beat on him, that this is the route they do out of that bunch, that's good to me. I have no problem with that. Anything else? Go ahead, please. Oh, boy. Yeah, I had to ask. That's the hardest one. And you heard me talking a little bit before about we have Blitz A versus Formation A, Blitz B versus Formation B. No coach in America likes 4 verticals out of cover 3. They'd be lying to you. But it's going to happen sometimes. And you know the answer to it. I mean, you do. I'm not going to tell you anything probably that you haven't really already thought of. We talked about cover 2 a minute ago, right? When we talked about cover 2, what did we say? I always try to teach the how and the why of shit, right? So in cover 2, what are the weaknesses of 2? The void area behind the corners. How do you defend that? By rerouting. And the area down the middle of the field, how you defend that? With the mic running down the middle. What's the weaknesses of 3 deep zone? Everybody knows it. I mean, it's the seam areas right there. The seam areas. That's the weakness of any 3 deep zone, probably. 3-step in that. All right, so whatever we're playing, let's say we're playing tight 3Y right here. So there's our star, there's our Mike, there's our Will. First we hold a cover 2 shell. If we ever get into this situation, we try to hold a 2 shell as best we can to discourage the 4 verts. Now as we walk down, all right, there's 2 things we do. There's 2 things we do and another thing we can do to best defend this. The first thing we do is this. Our star and our free safety, when you're getting 4 verticals, as they key through the end man their key when they're the curl to flat player is they key through the end man on line of scrimmage. So on the snap of the ball, they're hot in their feet. If they get the end man on line of scrimmage high hat, or if he's an eligible receiver and he releases, then they're a curl to flat defender. Okay? Before they take their curl to flat drop, what do you think they need to do to the number 2 receiver? Collision the shit out of him. In our playbook, it says CTS, collision the shit out of number 2 on the vertical. So if 2 goes vertical, before you take your curl to flat drop, you got to understand in 3 deep coverage, the weakness of any 3 deep coverage is 4 verts right there. So we'll hot our feet, and if 2 goes vertical, we're going to collision the shit out of him right there before we take a curl to flat drop. So all that means is I've got a 4-yard box, 2 yards to my outside, 2 yards to my inside. And if that guy goes vertical, we're going to collision him, and then we're going to take our V drop, sliding 1x10 inside the alignment of number 1, holding the curl, and reacting to the flat right there, getting our good drop right there. If 2 goes to the flat or across the formation, we obviously don't ever anymore have to collision the shit out of number 2, so we just take a good V drop, sliding 1x10 inside number 1, and again holding the curl, reacting to the flat. All right, now, as a corner, the thing that we can do right there is our corners in an outside third are what we call a clue technique. So their alignment, in a 2x2, their alignment, they'll move to the inside shoulder of the number 1 receiver, and they're cluing for 3-step first. So their read step and slow pedal, they're cluing for 3-step. Any 3-step, they're playing aggressive like you do an off man. Once 3-step clears, they play 1, C2. So if 2 goes vertical, all right, they get inside of 1 so that the 2 routes you get if 2 goes vertical are 4 verts, so you can overlap the 2 threatening receivers in your zone, or what we call a smash route right there. Those are the 2 routes you generally get if number 2 goes vertical. So if 2 goes vertical, They get inside number one right now and put themselves in a position that they can overlap. I talk about overlapping all the time on any 4 verticals or any 2 going up the seam in any 3 deep zone. And in our free safety, we do a shitload of ball drills. That middle third safety, where now he's got to be great. He's got to look at the quarterback. And if you've ever come to our practices, we do a lot of ball and reaction drills where that guy's, as a middle third guy, his responsibility is from 2 yards outside the hash to 2 yards outside the hash. His eyes are glued on that quarterback's front shoulder. And now he's got to do a great job now midpointing his zone and have the ability on the long arm motion. He's looking at that front shoulder and he's reacting to the long arm motion. That front shoulder tells him the direction of the throw, clearly to you guys right or left, and the depth of the throw. High shoulder level's a deep ball, low shoulder level's a seam ball right there. So what do? We collision the shit out of the verticals, we overlap on the corners, and we have our middle third safety, doing a hell of a job hopefully on that type of thing. In our zone blitzes, we can make what we call a danger call, where we'll actually run, our call to flat players will run with the seams until any number 3 receiver crosses their face. We do that the minority of the time, but that's something that we can do to combat that. And the third thing that we do, as I started to say before, is we have a lot of things that we'll call verse 2x2s to get ourselves out of any 3 deep zone. We'll call some coverage alert something else. So we'll play something to a 2x2 and something to a 3x1, things along those lines to better defend that. So, I don't know if that answered your question. Not to your satisfaction. Okay, all right, you look like you question it. So nobody likes 4 verticals versus 3 deep, I don't think. So, anybody else? Go ahead. Sure. And that's who and what we are, really. I mean, we're a big fire zone team. All right, give you a couple quickies and then see what happens from there. Out of our tight defense, right? Actually, it might be better on film if you want that. I can just do a couple clips of each. Let's do it that way. Sure. Yeah. Running back. Out of tight defense. Long story short, right? Long story short, we're out of tight defense, sets the front to the tight end. In our tight package, we have the ability to run our zone blitzes to the tight end, which is the word we use, torpedo, and away from the tight end, smoke. So we'll call in the huddle tight torpedo or tight smoke. Torpedo to the tight end, smoke, long O sound to the open side. So if we call tight torpedo, for instance, that means we're running a 3 deep, 300 zone blitz and blitzing to the tight end. So stud right, right, and then we declare our blitzes through a code word. Might be a color, brown for right, blue for left, green for right, gold for left, something along those lines. So we say brown. All right, and torpedo to us brings the linebacker or safety, the linebacker to the tight end side on a contained blitz. The 3 technique and 7 technique execute what we call pirate, where they take the A and the B gap. The 1 technique hops to B gap, and the end is what we call go charge right there. The safety to the blitz side steps down as the seam player. The corners are what we call hot third techniques. The safety away from the blitz is a middle third. Our Mike's our middle hook defender, and our Will's our weak seam defender. So it's backer force over here, safety force over here, and there's your 5-man go right there, torpedo. We run that one a lot. I mean, if you've watched this play, we probably ran torpedo over 300 times this year, I'd say. I mean, that's a good tight, that right there, if I were a high school coach, I would run that till the cows came home. Take tight end side, run away, and play 3 deep, 300 zone. We ran the shit out of that one right there. I mean, against Cincinnati, we probably ran that 25 times, in the bowl game. Well, we didn't win the bowl game, but it wasn't because of that blitz. I mean, so, go ahead. Not in that blitz, we don't drop. That's why I said if I were a high school coach, I would do that. We don't drop an end on that particular zone blitz. That's part of the reason I like it. And I can run it to any personnel grouping, anywhere on the field, and feel very, very comfortable with that. What's it to? Torpedo. To the what? Tight end side. To the tight end side. It's a tight end side zone blitz that we run the hell out of. Tight smoke, which we run on occasion, is again out of the tight package. It's a blitz for us that's run to the open side. So I'll draw a twins formation here. So again, stud left, left, left. There's your will. There's your Mike. There's your star. Corner, strong, free, corner. So you guys tell me if I told you tight smoke was a zone blitz that we ran to the open side, stud left, 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 we again would declare the blitz to the right side here with the brown call, a green call, whatever we do. And on this particular blitz then, the end's what we call a long stick. He's working into the A gap. The one's a rip opposite. The three's a hop to contain. The 7 works to easy force right there, and he becomes the weak side dropper. The star is on a contained blitz, and the Mike stays tight to the long stick right there. Corner's a hot third. This corner in this case is an outside third because he's got a tight end. We term him a read third. Strong safety is a seam player. Free safety, or the safety opposite of the blitz, becomes a middle third player, and our will's our middle hook player. Any flow strong, he's inside out to the ball. Any flow weak, he's a B-gap defender, banging the ball out to the corner. And on any pass, he's a middle hook defender. Tight smoke. And again, we always talk about, I said before, trying to simple on us, hard on the offense. One of the things we did a lot this year was we would make a stab call, where he would go flat, and the Mike would then loop around and become the contained player. So kind of a change of responsibility for 2 people, but keeping everybody else on the field's responsibility identical right there. So torpedo, tight inside zone blitz. Smoke, open side zone blitz right there. Now, if you had a 3Y call, 3Y? Well, not exactly. You're right. I like the way you're thinking there because that's the tight end right there. But anytime we had a closed back side and we had tight 3Y called, we checked to a coverage called Zorro, which is basically quarter, half to that side. So that would be a whole different animal right there talking about that. So, I can get into that if you want. I mean, our rules were this in 3Y. And you're right on the right track there. You got the right idea. I mean, in 3Y, we usually called that to 11 personnel. So if we had tight 3Y, there's your free, there's your strong, there's your star, there's your corner. You got the right idea because if we say Y, so that's, you're on to that one. There's your will, there's your Mike. So 2 by 2, there's your tight end. We'd say sky left. Free safety comes down, outside third, middle third, curl to flat, outside third. He's got the A gap, B gap, C gap, or B gap, C gap, D gap player right there. We're good shape. If it were a 3 by 1, you got it. If it were 3 by 1, something like that, it'd be stud right, right, and then sky right, except for we'd make a sin call to hold the disguise right there. So there's our star, there's our corner, there would be our will, there would be our Mike. Free safety works to the middle, strong safety steps down as the D gap player. You saw those 2 on film. The other formation you'll get out of 11 personnel is a closed backside, which you just asked about a minute ago. So stud left, left, left. All right, so there's our star, there's our corner, there's our Mike, there's our will, there's our corner, there's our free, and there's our strong. Because if we put sky left, basically all that would be doing is exchanging responsibilities between those 2 guys. We feel like the corner being up there is good enough. We're fine on that. So any closed backside, we check Zorro, and Zorro is essentially quarter, half. Corner force there, safety force there, deep half, corner force, weak curl player, strong hook to curl player, inside quarter, outside quarter, and he's a curl to flat player. So if we ever called tight 3Y, those are the 3 things that we'd end up in that particular situation. The other way we set up our zone blitzes, give you the quick ones, and then answer any questions and kind of let you guys get to dinner then. All right. The last front that we have, which we didn't really ever get to talk about because we ran out of time, is our bench front. And bench is whenever we just set the front. Split was set the front away from the stud. Tight was set the front to the stud. You're going to miss all the good stuff. And then bench was set the front to the bench. So if the ball, that's a hash mark call to us where we set the front to the bench. So we make a left call there. 1 and the 5 are to the right. Our star's always to the field. Our Mike is to the field as a 30. Our will's to the boundary as a 30. There's our free, there's our strong, there's our corner, And if tight torpedo attacks to the tight smoke attacks away from the tight end, our bench blitzes are designed to attack the field, the middle, and the boundary. So we can call those like that. And I alluded to them before. I said storm, and the code words are pretty easy. Storm, strong. What's the O, you think? Strong outside. Sting, strong inside. Mo, where do you think that one's coming from? Middle. And where do you think cowboy would be coming from? The boundary right there. So those are our 4 primary zone blitzes out of bench defense. And strong being from the field. So bench storm, everybody in America runs this one now. So again, that's left, brown, or green, whatever our code word is for that week. Long stick, rip opposite, hop to contain, easy force. Stars running the edge blitz, Mike tight to the long stick right there. Safety stepping down as the seam player. Will's our middle hook. Free safety, corner right there. Hot third, middle third right there. So any flow strong, Will's inside out to the ball. Safety's our force player. End falls back into the B. Any flow weak, the Will's in the B gap. End's the easy force player. Strong safety's the cutback player in the C gap right there. Any pass shows, hot thirds. He's a weak seam player, keeping the ball in his inside pad. He's a middle hook defender, and he's a strong seam player right there. He's keeps the ball in his inside pad right there. So bench is the front, sets the 3 technique to the bench. Storm, strong blitz, outside, strong outside. Sting, strong inside. One of my favorites, love it a lot versus 20 and 21 personnel. Love it versus 2 backs. If you have a good sting runner, I like this one a lot. We ran this in the bowl game a couple times. There's your star, there's your corner, there's your strong, there's your free. And again, we try to show Zorro or quarter, half coverage. Strong inside. So again, ball's on the left hash. We set the front to the boundary. Left. Strong blitz. Brown or green in this particular case. Brown or green, depending on the code word. Strong inside. Ends a go charge. Nose rip opposite. Hop to contain. Easy force. Mike's the lead dog. He works through the B gap. Strong safety edges right behind him. And he blitzes the strong A gap right there. Free safety, middle third. Corners, hot third. Remember at the very beginning of the day, we talked about same as teaching. Very simple for our guys. Star's a seam player, and our star, remember, is a hybrid strong safety outside linebacker. Will's our middle hook defender. Nothing different than what he did moments ago in Storm. So a lot of same as type things. Like this versus inside run. Like it versus play action pass. Like it on early downs. Had a big sack against Georgia running this particular blitz. Really kind of a pretty good deal right there. Sting, strong inside. I like them. I don't have any problem with them. I mean, I like them a lot, as a matter of fact. I mean, I like any of those blitzes versus, we run probably torpedo the most. And as I talked about before, we call multiple blitzes within the framework of a call. So bench sets the front to the what? Bench. So we're good. Now, however they come out of line sometimes, we can run the blitz that we want. So you asked me, but we were talking about, the man asked about how do you defend 4 verts out of a 3 deep gig right there. So if teams come out in 2x2s sometimes, well, we ain't blitzing. But if they come out in a 3x1 or a 2x1, we may be running some of these blitzes. So you asked, there's some things I really like, and some of these blitzes, any of these blitzes we can turn into 2 deep blitzes or man-free blitzes versus 2x2s as well. I mean, if you can count to 3, drop over 2, drop over 3, drop over 2, you can really kind of turn these blitzes into things. To trips, 3x1? We run Storm to a 3x1 a lot. So, bench sets the front to the bench. All right, so you got that right there. There's your Mike, there's your Will, there's your corner, there's your star, there's your corner, strong, free right there. So, left, brown. All right. The hardest thing when you have 3 detached, any 3 deep, 3 under zone blitz, is if teams start running the bubble thing to you right there. That's by far the hardest one. No question about that. The 2 ways we've defended that, the Will's the drop over 3 player. Nothing changes for him. So he cheats his alignment slightly. Any flow weak, he's got to get back into the B gap, no question. Any flow strong, he's inside out to the ball, and he's a middle hook defender. If you just played it, that's fine. He's got to set the edge of the defense. He's got to be inside out to the ball. He's got to run like crazy. And he's got to be in position that he ensures the block of the number one receiver in case it's the smoke screen pass, and then he keeps it in front and inside. He falls back into the B, and he rotates the ball. No problem there. I mean, is it the best? No, because sometimes if 3 is detached, that's a long way for him to go. I get that. I understand that. But also, we've batted down a lot of passes with that guy right there, just by getting our hands up and batting that thing down. We've also run a stab course where that guy goes flat and that guy loops around, and if he recognizes bubble, stays on his horse and just goes running to that. The other adjustment we've made in the past is making a will adjustment where the Mike now becomes the middle hook player and the will just runs the blitz right there. I mean, on this blitz, it can, but I mean, all he's got to do is stay tight to the long stick. And the other answer in 10 and 11 personnel is we run a lot of these same blitzes. I didn't really get into it. Out of a 3-down look, what we call our dollar personnel, where we're playing more man. We'll play, like I said, we could play these things out of man-free type concepts, where we actually have a safety stepping down and playing man over that and things along those lines. So, that Wake Forest was the toughest team we played because they split that guy out, crazy split. I used to split outside the hash mark, and that discouraged us from doing that particular blitz. If that's the case, let me keep working with you here for a second. The one I like, actually, oddly enough, is our cowboy blitz, which I'll draw to this because we'll call like Ben Zorro alert cowboy, and cowboy's the weak side blitz. So now you got the will there, you got the Mike there, you got your star, you got your corner, you got your strong, you got your free, you got your corner. Cowboy now brings it from the boundary. So there's your pirate, hop the B, go charge, and you're bringing him off the backside edge. He's there. He's your middle third. He's your seam player. I think your Mike's in a little bit better position to play that than your drop over 3 player when he's coming from over there. I don't think they see it coming all the time on that. And we ended up running a shitload of that blitz, especially late in the season. On flow this way, he gets it back to the will. He fits the A gap. On flow this way, he's the seam player, and he falls back into the A gap right there. And on any pass, he's your middle hook player. He's your weak seam player. I always thought the key to this one was holding your disguise. The corners get so antsy, and they give it away because they want to get up there and press. They don't think anybody noticed. They think he turns invisible when he goes up and presses. I think the key for him is to look the same as he does on any other down and distance, and for the free safety to work for width rather than depth initially. We love Cowboy. Cowboy's one of our favorite blitzes and one that we run quite a bit. And the last one out of the bench package, so you got Storm, you got Sting, you got Cowboy, and the one that we ran this year a lot because we were pretty good at it, and I like this one versus 11. I'll draw versus 20 set, actually. So, again, ball's on the left hash. So, it's left. Brown, and then we don't give a directional call on this one. You can probably figure MW. It's a Mo blitz. Pittsburgh Steelers have been the best for years and years at running the middle cross dogs. So, on a Mo, it's a go charge, hop to B. The Mike's first. He works opposite A. Will's second. He works opposite A. 3 technique, hop to contain. Easy force. Star's a seam player. Corner's a hot third. Strong safety's back to middle third. And free safety now steps down into the box as your middle hook player. Theoretically, he's your middle hook player should be your better one of your he's the one that theoretically in your zone blitzes is your unblockable guy right there. He's the guy who should be untouched and unblocked. So some people will step the strong safety down. I got no problem with that. Put your best tackling safety down. We have our reasons for putting the free safety down. So on any flow strong, inside out to the ball, no gap or responsibility. Any flow weak, B-gap the flow. Track the ball from inside out. Any pass, we tell him he's what we call an inside hots on 2 or 3 player. So they dump an inside hot, he's right there. Middle hook. Middle hook means you work 8 to 10 yards deep, stacked over final number 3. 1, 2, 3. A perfect middle hook drop to us is 8 to 10 yards deep over a normally split tight end of the field. And that's what we tell those guys. We were good at Mo this year. That was good. The reason I like Mo also in Cowboys is because I think those hold disguises a bit better than some of the other. They smoke you out on the Storm a little bit by double cadences and things like that. Sting and Storm can be tough ones. We were pretty damn good at Mo right there. We were good at Mo and Cowboy this year. Anything else? Yes and yes. So I mean, we're blessed this year to have a middle line. Anybody who followed us this year, if you guys from Nashville, a guy named Chris Marv, who has forgotten more football than a lot of college football players will ever know. I mean, he was awesome, and we were able to do a lot of things with him this year that we probably won't be able to do a year from now. He was brilliant and commanded the respect of his teammates. There was nothing he hadn't seen over the course of 4 years. So I put a lot in his hands this year, and he was capable of, like I talked about Blitz A and Blitz B and things like that. The one thing I will share with you is we don't do a lot of that in 2-minute drills, things like that. As I said before, I think when you have alerts and checks in 2-minute drills and it's coming real fast at you, that could be challenging at times. A couple things that we did do, he was responsible for it and the safeties are responsible for it, to answer your base question right there. He was the best I've ever seen. Our safeties continue to need improvement, and I coach those guys, so I got to get those guys a little bit better. Couple things that we did do this year that I thought we did real well and made plays on, with the look stuff that everybody, and then they all looked to the sideline. When they looked, we looked. We had a lot of success against Arkansas on that, changing our call when they looked to the sideline. We got pretty good. We could either go play it, where we played the call, or we checked to an entirely different call, where maybe we were blitzing one way, and we changed the blitz to the other way. Maybe we were blitzing and we changed out of blitzing. Maybe we weren't blitzing, we decided to blitz, whatever it was right there. And the other thing we did a good job of, and we put it on the players, and you can see a couple examples of this, we did what offenses do, basically. Obviously they caught us in a blitz. And you could see, you get a feel for a game, they're checking off to something. And maybe they can fool you by double checking back to a run, but then we checked out of the blitz and into a 2-deep coverage or something like that. And against South Carolina, we got an interception doing that. We got Garcia to throw a 3-step into a hard corner. When I was at William & Mary, I can share with you over 10 incidents where we got a team to call timeout or throw a 3-step into 2-deep coverage because they thought we were blitzing and things like that. And I think those are, I don't know if that's exactly answering your question, and those are things that we did, and we were blessed to have, or fortunate to have, a couple upper-class guys who had some maturity into them and everything. But, I think it's really hard when a game's going fast. Like, when I was in 1AA in the CAA, we played New Hampshire, where Chip Kelly came from, and theirs was always volume. They just want to get as many plays as they could run at you. I mean, we really probably could have lined up in the same defense all the time because it didn't really matter. They were running the play no matter what we were in. They got 32 plays in the first quarter once against us. I've never seen anything like that. That was insanely crazy. But you just got to try to, again, it goes back to what I said at the very, very beginning about not trying to have the perfect call in a situation like that, and getting your guys' cleats in the ground and giving them a little bit of confidence to it.